mode.
Hi everyone, this is Hussein Cornell again, and thank you again for joining us to our Build Your VFX CGIQ. Today we are going to be talking about assembling a team, asset building, the VFX stages of production, and at this point we're at pre-production. Again, I wanted to let you guys know that we have other people that have helped with this. So we have David Santos in California, Dominique here in Boston, and if this thing will go to the next slide, here we go. We also have John Bell that is in Oregon. I know I'm saying it incorrectly, it's Oregon, if I think if I'm correct, or maybe still incorrect. Really quickly, some in-house things. This is so you can get your questions to me. This is just a quick little overview of the chat window for the Connect to Web. So you can go here, enter your question, and one of us will be getting back to your question. At the end, we're going to have a questions and answers section. So without any further ado, I'm going to start up. Today I'm going to jump in really quickly into Sketchbook Pro because I didn't talk about some of these things. I had a supplemental video, but I just wanted to really make sure you meaning everyone out here watching, understand this. We have something that is called, DAM, Digital Asset Management. I'm not going to write it out for time constraints. One of the most important things is keep it, and this is going so slow. That's because I'm doing the organized. You know what? I'm going to have to get a different, why is this doing this to me? Go to my brushes. Just do it, keep it organized. All right, so yeah, with the screen capture stuff, my laptop here is suffering dearly. I don't have that great of a laptop, so I do apologize for that. So keep it organized. That's very important. One of the things that you're going to have is a file structure. And that's misspelled again, awesomeness to me. And that's why you need a file structure and you need naming conventions. Most places create a template. I'm not going to create one for you. I'm expecting everyone in every place is going to have their own production pipeline. Just be aware to don't use crazy characters and don't use spaces. So no asterisks, no these little guys, no these little guys. These might work on a Mac. They will not work on a PC most of the time. So do not use these in your file naming, and do not put an underscore in front, in front of your folder. It might be nice and neat to have it roll up to the top, but when you're doing searches, this might get confusing and it might put things out of order. So try not to do that. The other thing, when you're creating a file name, instead of making a, let's say you have shot, version 1, maybe the person's initials, it's Hussein Cornell, and maybe this is, this is a model, or some people say geo, if it's a geometry. Again, this is all going to depend on your workflow, and then you're going to have the file name, MA or MB. You'd have a period, of course. So instead of leaving spaces here, please put an underscore. What do spaces do? In some instances, these come in, I think as a percent. I forgot what the other thing is. It's %0 or something, I think it is. So that isn't going to be understood in some places, and it's going to give you errors depending on what you're doing. So make sure all these are going to work on cross-platform. So you can do this on a Mac, you can do this on a PC, you can do this in Linux, and you're not going to have an issue. File names, just make sure you use something intelligent. And that's just, I'm not gonna really, harp too much on that because each person's gonna have their own thing. I do know where I've been in some productions where it's final, 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 version 10 final, almost final, final, and it's like, you know, that doesn't work. So most places are going to have a project set up probably by the client name. So you'd see that folder first. This little cute folder here for everyone to see. And then that client might have several projects. So this is, you know, projects, whatever, fire, making some sort of, you know, fireworks, whatever. And then that will have a substructure between it. The way that most people arrange things is by task and or sometimes by the type of files that are going to be in there. So a task could be modeling. A task could be, you know, animation. Animation, it could be lighting, be simulation. So, you know, you would probably abbreviate these to, you know, LG light anyway, just anim, mod, or, you know, as I stated before, you could say geo for, you know, it's just a geometric simulation. You'd probably put sim, etc. I'm not going to go through and list all the possibilities because each project is going to be different. You might not have a single simulation. It might be stills because you're doing just one image, so you're not going to have animation. It's all dependent on your, you know, previs is one of these. Okay, so types can be, is this a character file? Is this, and you might have, you know, some of these things underneath characters. Is this character animation? Is this a prop? Is this a set extension or set? Is this cameras? And these could be, you know, whatever your production is going to have. I wanted to cover this before I started working on our project because I do find this very important. I'm not going to dictate how you do this. Each place is going to find what works best for them. You will have to create some sort of naming convention. You might have a name based off of a shot. Maybe that task involved. So let's say maybe it's shot 001 underscore, you know, the task might be, you know, anim, and you would have the versioning. So you would have B001 or however you wish to create your versioning. And you would have some sort of information. You either put this in the metadata of that file or in this file itself. You know, this is a flame. Flame explosion, whatever. I know that didn't look correct spelling. That's why you would type this out. And then the format. Is this a EXR? Is this a MA? Is this you know, a Photoshop file? And so forth. So without any further ado, I am going to jump in. I know I rushed through this very quickly, and this is because there's probably a lot of information out there. First webinar, I gave an example of a book that you guys should probably check out if you really want to step up your game. The Best Handbook as well is a good book to go through. So I haven't created a full project. So these are some possibilities. Maybe you have a client. This would actually be a source. It wouldn't be the client. This would be source. My project is Build Your VFX Project. These are the settings that I get from using the shotgun. Oops, and I can actually come on. I don't know why that's staying up. So I can actually initiate these programs through the shotgun little widget here and create versioning and do different things of that sort. I haven't set this fully up on my laptop. I do have it set up on my other machine. just showing you that these are possibilities. It connects very easily. You can jump to certain things very quickly. I'm going to jump here just to show you some of the stuff that you can do. You can set a lot of stuff through Shotgun. Set your projects, set your assets, your shots, and there's also booking, so you can set who's going to be working, how much time they're going to be in. There's a lot of other stuff you can do. So I had somebody else who is also going to be part of these, Kevin Dunn, create this asset for us. So this is where we're going to start on today. We're going to start creating this this gadget that our character is going to be using on their wrist. So this is kind of a bracelet. It looks like you can take it off, put it on. I can quickly edit changes here as I explained before, so I won't get too far into it. So without any further ado, we're going to have to get this and work with it. One thing that I kind of did on purpose, I didn't ask Kevin for front, side views because I wanted it to be a little bit harder. What happens if you get this? Okay, I don't have a side view, I don't have a top view, I don't have a front view. That makes modeling really easy, but when you don't have that, this can be kind of challenging. So you kind of have to use a little bit of creative license, which is great to have. So here's my, here I am in Maya modeling that. How would I set that up? So the very first thing is I have my reference folder and I have all the other reference here, but I have this image here. So I'm going to bring it in. I can either make this into a perfect square, so it's not going to get skewed, but the fact that it's a 3/4 view, the fact that it's a 3/4 view, I'm not really too worried about it. I could go here and crop it and make it a perfect square. I would press Shift to then make it a square, and I guess I have to start from a little bit. Maybe move this over. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that because that's going to take up too much time, so I'm just going to close that. Goodbye. So the first thing is I'm starting to work in Maya. So those of you that are new to Maya, this UI can get very little bit scary. So we have the outliner here, which kind of explains to us what's happening, what's in our scene. There's many different display modes, but I'm just going to stay with stock. You have some of the operations you can do. These are basically what your QWERTY keys do, which is move, what do you call it, transform, move, rotate, etc. And also grab, where you have the picker. So without any further ado, this is how I would take the first task, which would be creating my asset. So right now, this is kind of an R&D stage. We're starting to make this this gadget. So as a modeler, the first thing I would do is I would make sure that my project is set. So the first thing I do is set my project, and I have to make sure, okay, that's not where I want to be. I want to be here, and I want to be here, and I want to be probably in the visual effects and underneath my Maya projects, so set. And then you would go here to your project window. You would open up here, and then at this point you would accept, because it will create all of these folders which Maya needs. You would do this for all of your programs. You'll probably have a, within your, as you can see, in many of these you're going to have a lot of those under R&D, under VFX. So you might have Maya, you might have, we're going to be populating with a 3D Max. You're going to have Mudbox and so forth. We're going to have in here in how they work back and forth. So you can use, we have various ways you can create an image plane on your camera. You can actually create an image plane here, and then we can bring that image plane so we can model. So automatically, Maya is going to go to the root. Maya is going to want things to be in the source image folders. Uh-oh, nothing is there. It's not going to work. So my first thing is I want to create the a image. So I'm going to go back to my ref. I'm going to go here. That's a TIFF file. I kind of like working with PNG files, which are a little bit lighter. So I'm going to save as, copy, and then I'm going to create a PNG file. And I'm going to make this gadget, version 1. And off it goes. We can close that. And we should have that populate here. There it is. So I can go back and I can use the image plane, and it should have. Oh, see, I forgot to do this. This should actually be. I'm going to cut this or copy it, and I'm going to put it underneath Build My VFX, My Project, and in my source image folder. And there we go. So now we see that this is in our image folder. We can bring that there, and this is set up there. But this doesn't quite work for me because it's stuck to that camera. I can pop it off. I can do other things. What I really like to do, and I know a lot of people like to work this way, I just Control-Z to get my way out of there. What I like doing, which gives me more flexibility, is I just create a plane. I enlarge it. I don't really worry about it too much. I make sure that everything is set to 0. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. This is the attribute editor that gives us information about the things that we're working on. Right now that went into component mode, sorry about that. And this goes through the different different nodes that each thing in Maya has. Modeling toolkit for modeling, we'll get to that, and then the channel box that tells us what's going on. In every operation I do, you'll notice that we'll have a little bit more more population of those things that are happening as I put history on these objects. So I'm pressing E to get to that, to get to the rotate, and I can input normally, making it 90-degree angle, and I'm going to open up what's called the hyper shade. This is where we control all of our textures and shaders in Maya. And I didn't want to make it that big. When you first start out, Maya is going to have a normal Lambert 1. Many of you actually are going to have, let me set this to stock, you're going to have this material viewer up here as well. Dock it in and pull it down. So this is what I should have set that up earlier. So this is what your standard Maya is going to load up as. So this kind of lets us know what this is going to look like if you're using Arnold with this interior and you have it on a piece of cloth. The Lambert 1 is a shader you don't want to mess with because every new object you create is going to have Lambert 1 applied. When I'm modeling, what I usually do is I just create a Maya shader. It's a normal Lambert, and I might just name it just gray geo, meaning this is what I'm going to apply to all my geometry. When I model, I do not worry about textures, and I do not worry about the shader at that moment, because all I'm worried about is getting that object modeled. Afterwards, you can start adding color, you can start adding different things. So never use Lambert 1. The other thing that I'm also going to create now, let's see if we can have a few of these, is I'm going to create my image plane. If you notice, I'm not leaving any spaces, and I'm not putting capitals at the beginning. I am putting in in the middle. That's kind of a way that I've learned to work, and I always like to version my things. That way I know if I've created a new one, it's going to be different. So it gives us some options. It docked itself. And this is something that I have to get used to because it's something new. So get out of there. Stop docking yourself. So one of the things that you can move around with the Alt and with the Alt key and right and I think this is a right middle mouse button and middle and right middle mouse button to move in. So you'll notice that under color we can go ahead and change the color. I haven't applied it to this to my image plane, so a way to apply it, I can drag it and middle mouse over it, or I can have this selected and I can say assign material to viewport selection. it'll do the same way. There's actually other ways to do it. I'm not going to get too into it. There's many ways to do the same thing within Maya. So as you can see on the fly, I'm getting this the webinar thing out of my way because you guys don't see it, but I do. As you can see, if I were to come over here on the color wheel and change colors, this is all going to, update and do stuff. But I want to map a texture to this. Off the bat, when you first create a square like this, you're going to have UVs on it. And as you can see, these are the UVs I'm selecting. They're just mapped. Right now, it's a perfect square using the whole area of my grid. So I'll get more into UVs later. I just want you to understand that for setting up your image plane, it's good to know that if it looks bad, then we can tweak this. And again, that docked where I didn't want it to. Come on, and it's so finicky with me. It's because I'm doing a webinar. So on this image plane, I have this little checker thing over here. That allows me to then add other nodes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a file node. So I'm going to go back to Maya here, and I am going to, come on, where are you? Of course, I have all this other stuff. Very quickly, you can just type in and easily find something that you're looking for. So I'm going to create a file node. What that file node does is and I'm going to zoom back out of here, it creates a connection. It creates a 2D texture plane. It's expecting a file, and it's putting it into the color or the diffuse of that Lambert. So now I can click on the little folder icon, open up the gadget, open it, and you're like, where is it? So you also have to press 6 on your keyboard to see things with textures. 7 is with lights, it'll go black. 6 is to these things with textures. And now we're looking at this and you're like, it's all squished, dude. This looks terrible. Like, what's going on? And that's where you can get away with changing your UVs. So I can very quickly come in here and stretch these UVs at the top. Stretch these down and get it to where I think it looks best. You can also go in and you can tweak, and it docked again. It's going to be my never-ending story. It keeps docking. And it also created a transparency. So I'm going to break this connection because I don't want a transparency. I can come into this color property, and I can make sure that this texture is placed correctly. So I'm going to go into my attribute editor. I'm going to go into my object mode. That's something I didn't talk about, and I do apologize. That everything in Maya and 3D Max as well is divided into certain parts. So you have, I'm going to close this just to explain that really quickly. And I know if this is something that everybody out there knows, I'm sorry if it's a little too beginner, but I did want to make this so everybody could learn from it if they're starting afresh. So you have your object mode, which is the main object. Then you have edges, which are, of course, the lines that you see. Then we have vertices, which are the points. And then we have what are called faces. So that's what everything is made up of. And you have the options to manipulate these and place them and do whatever you want with them, either with precision by using coordinates and inputting numbers, or you can just on the fly move them. If you notice right here in the in this bottom status bar, it shows us translate X, Y, Z in centimeters, and it shows us what's moving down there. So that's cool for you to see. We also have a script editor that runs in the background that tells us everything we've done to this. So I moved it this much, I rotated it that much, and so forth, and in what axis. So it's X, Y, and Z. Okay, so without any further ado, I don't want to show this top part. So you notice I'm adding more things to this. So now I have a poly tweak. So that's something that's in my history. So I wanted to come back over here and show you guys where this image plane is and the placement of that image plane. So this is that place 2D texture. If we come back into our hypershade, and load it up, and of course it's going to dock into the window. Stop docking, and I'm going to graph materials on selected object, and I think I don't have it selected. So this node right here, the place 2D, is the one that I was going here. In here, we can also change, do I want it to wrap around? I said, no, I don't want it to wrap around. That means it's going to continue endlessly, either, X or Y or U or V. And we can repeat it if we would like to. We can make it bigger so it covers more areas. We can rotate it if we would like to. So we have a lot of flexibility. I'm not going to get too far into that, so that's all I'm going to go on that. So I have it kind of where I want it. I have it nicely centered. That's fine. You can either work with it right in the center. I usually tend to just put it off to the side because this is not set up in a front, top, side view, which is ideal, but ideal is not real world most of the time. Many times I get a sketch that was done on a napkin and you work with it. So that's why I went this way. I'm going to hide the grid just so I can get this a little cleaner for you. So now we have this here, and it has some history on it. I want to get rid of this poly tweak, so I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type, and History. So you noticed those other nodes that were attached are now gone. And we're going to explore some other areas in Maya as we move forward. So with that out of the way, I'm going to go to my channel box and layer editor, and I'm going to apply this object, which is a plane with a texture attached to it, to this layer. So as you can see, I click the ball. It means the ball with the layer, which means create a layer and attach selected object to that layer. And then I can put it as render only, meaning I will not be able to select it, but it's being rendered in the viewport. There's many different ways to do a model. We can do kind of a patch modeling. We can do a block modeling. There is an endless way of getting your data on. So sometimes in patch modeling, if this is not blocked, we can create what's called a live object, and then we would use our modeling toolkit, and we could do what we would call a quad draw. And I'm just drawing on this actual piece, but this isn't really. And then I can press Shift and right or left click, and it would create that object. The problem is that this isn't really going to work for me because right now we have this kind of in a 3/4 view, and it's got perspective applied to it, and trying to unskew that perspective is going to be kind of difficult. So I'm going to unclick the this little magnet here, which makes live, which means you can draw on top of an object, on top of a 3D object. If I would have had a sphere here, and I'm just going to illustrate because I don't want people to say, what in the world is Hussein talking about? So if I have a sphere here and then I make it live, I can come to quad draw and then I can draw on it. And just the objects that are on it, as you can see, it makes it to do, you can do some really fun stuff. And this is what a lot of people use when they're retopologizing something that's very, very complex. So without any further, I'm going to undo this. I'm just going to object mode, and I'm going to delete. Delete, I don't need that. And I'm going to make sure that I'm back here. I'm going to put that in just render mode. So I'm going to start out with a nice little box. And I'm going to concentrate on the top part. Then I'm going to do the bracket. So the top part, I can see, okay, this is a square. And, maybe about, yay, I guess it's probably a little bit longer. Make it a little smaller. And, okay, the important thing when creating a model, use as little detail as you can. I could have added, I'm going to go back to the modeling toolkit, and I'm going to do what's called multi-cut, which adds edge loops. I can have this many. It still looks the same. Oops, I didn't. I could have this many lines. It is of no use to have this many edges. It's going to take that much more time to calculate. It's going to be that much hard. Let's say if I want to move the top of this. So I'm pressing the O key, which is a hotkey, and I'm pressing down the right key. And I'm going to select Paint Select Faces. Is kind of a little more of an advanced technique. But look at what I'll have to do to just move the top part. There's other ways that I could do this, but this is just to illustrate. Then I'm clicking Control to deselect. Let's say I just want to move that middle part and push it up a little bit. You see how much harder it has become because I have all these lines, and I have to make sure I don't have anything selected. If I were to press W for the Move key, then I can move that up. But if I didn't have all those lines in there, and all I had is just the necessary lines, then it would be a lot easier to manipulate. So let's say, bam, much easier, and I don't have all that extra stuff. We can also optimize things. So I can actually do quad draw on an object itself. I don't actually have to have it this way. One easy thing to do is to do fixes such as these. So as you noticed, I want that to work, but I don't necessarily want to have that that extra bit of geometry in there. Oops. As you can see, sometimes we get things that go off into La La Land. You just have to be aware that sometimes these operations go all the way through the keyboard or all the way through your object, and you just have to be very, very careful that you're paying attention, because sometimes you might have something that will snap where it's not supposed to, and then 5 minutes later, uh-oh, where is it? What did I do? How can I fix it? So, let's say here is my face. Oops, as you noticed, I missed one on the other side. The other thing that we can do is we don't have to do, if it's symmetrical, we might not have to do both sides. We only do half and flip it over. On this one, I'm going to, not multi-cut, I can use target weld as well. As you can see, there's many different ways to accomplish the same thing. But as you notice, the target weld is depending on how and where I am, it's trying to do different things. And sometimes that's why I like the quad draw. It seems to be in my own, that's my own likes or dislikes. Back to the attribute editor, you'll know that we have poly split, we have poly split. It's going to extend to, you notice we have all this stuff going on. Like, oh my God, it's just forever. That's our history stack. That history stack sometimes is good to keep, sometimes it's not good to keep. One thing that you can do, you can create more shelf buttons if you like. You can come here to edit, delete by type history. You would be Control Shift and middle mouse button, and I've created a history button, a delete history. So I click delete history. You notice everything back to no history on that one. So I can't really, I can do Control Z, it'll probably remember it, but that history is no longer part of this object. Again, this file is still called untitled, so it's really good to save. So on this one, I am just going to call it, this is going to be, since I don't really have a shot set up for this, I guess it'll be shot 1. So this is our shot 1. I should probably have a folder that would say shot 1 underneath scenes, so it's actually even better. So actually, let's go back. I would create a new folder, shot 001. And then in here, I would then create my asset. And this would be, I could probably just call it gadget geo version 001. Some places, I've seen this many different ways. Some put the artist's name in the metadata if you're using certain tools like Shotgun, or others put their initials, used in capital letters, inside the file name. And the versioning can either be in the front or the back. This is again up to you. And version 001, and automatically it's either going to ask for a Maya binary or a Maya ASCII. I used to only save in Maya ASCII, and it was if we had a crash, we could go in and we could fix the ASCII data. Nowadays, I tend to just do binaries. I haven't had much issues with binary files. The one reason I like binary files, they're half the size and they save much quicker. This is going to depend on how you're going to work. ASCII files, if you're working on a network, are going to be slower, but again, you can recuperate something that's been corrupted. Binary file is going to read and write much faster. If you're saving to your desktop or to your own machine like I'm doing in this project right now, it probably isn't going to matter which one I use. I'm not going to tell. You will be able to tell by the file size in the end. But this is very simple, not much there. So I would go through and I would start doing the rest of this asset. This is actually not the way I would actually create this, so I'm actually going to start this one over. We can just delete this, and I'm very quickly going to run through how I would do this. So I would separate this into stages. First, I'm going to do maybe the bottom part or maybe the top part. Control D, I've just copied that piece, and so forth, and I can go from there. I can either have a bottom of it on it or not, and I can decide what I'm going to do with it. And slowly but surely, we start building this guy up. So if I'm doing this guy, I might say, okay, I'm going to add a edge loop here, and I'm going to start putting in that curve. Maybe I'll start. I'll put in a. I'm pressing Shift so I get. You can change this. You can get snapping, and right here I believe it's snapping in the middle. I'm not quite entirely sure if it is or not. So I'm going to snap here. I'm going to snap in the middle of this one as well. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to snap here, and I'm going to edge, double-click, selects the full edge loop, and then I can move this. At this time, I'm kind of just eyeballing it. I'm not really getting too worried. I can always change this, and I'm going to try to go in the middle of that, and I'm going to try to make sure this is as close to a square that I can do. So there's many different things we can do. I'm going to do a chamfer. So we have different things we can do, and I just wanted to bring up all these tools that we have for tools. No, I didn't get it. All the tools we have for polygon modeling, which at this point is what we're doing, and kind of what some of these do. Mesh display has to do with the normals, and a lot of people will sometimes get a file and it looks weird and things aren't right, and they're like, why is it all, why do I get this black stuff here? This doesn't look right. Well, it's because your normals are reversed, or you have some sort of issue. In some instances, people will bring in models that they've purchased somewhere, like Turbo Squid or CG Trader or so forth, and they'll bring them in, and the program they were used in might have different ways to deal with normals. So they look all weird. Easiest way is to unlock the normals and maybe conform the normals so you can fix those errors. Not going to get too far into that one. We have many different operations we can do. We can add bevels, we can extrude, we can merge, and so forth. The one I was going to go with was chamfer vertices. So first of all, I have to go into component mode to vertices. I could come over here and try to do both at the same time, but to tell you the truth, these are probably the same on either side. Maybe it tapers in, maybe it doesn't, but I'm going to, I'm just going to say they're the same size. So I'm going to chain for vertices. One of the really, really big gotchas in doing CG is maintaining quads. So I just created a chamfer here, and I made the area a little bit bigger. So if I were to press 3 on the keyboard to get a smooth, you'll notice that's going to turn into a more of a cylinder thing, which is going to more replicate what we have here. Yet, this isn't correct topology. It's going to be difficult to deal with. I'm going to go back to 1, and these are just some little tricks that you're going to have to do. So I'm going to go to multi-cut. I'm going to press the shift key to get in the center. So I'm going to put there, and then I'm going to drag down and press the Y key, which means I want to stay in the same tool, yet do the operation again. Oops, as you can see, I didn't do 50% there, and it should be telling you that it's 50%. Come on, drag all the way down, and yes. You're like, well, how are you going to get these guys to cooperate with those? Right off the bat, I can do an average of these vertices, or I can just fudge it. A lot of times, and I'm just looking behind, so I make sure that I'm not selecting anything. Another way to model is you can be in the wireframe mode. That helps out some. And I can stretch these out as I see fit. And now these are all quads. They're going to deform a lot better. Go back to 6 so I can keep checking on my reference. And I know that, yeah, it's probably fatter back here than it is up here. Well, maybe. I'm not quite sure. This is just a thinner in the middle is what it looks like more than it is. And this is where you can use your creative freedom. You can use your artistic license, I guess, is what some of my teachers would say. And from here, we go and we start creating the asset. I can then come over here and come to this face. Then I can do an extrude. And you'll notice we get some options here on what we want to do. And each one of these is going to change how this is done. How many divisions? Do I want it offset? Do I want it sticking out? How do I want this to work? Do I want it translated? I can actually do that on the fly if I want to, and you'll see the update. There's also a humongous list of things that I can do if I wanted to do something that's not listed here. Some cases I get where, oh, I can't do this, and it's just because it's hidden. So we can do a twist if you want to create a twist on this, or so forth. You can keep faces together. Why would you do that? Why won't you do that? I'll get to that soon. But those are things to think about. And again, every time we do one of these operations, this whole square, this whole cube is still going to be called polycube. And if we come over here, you'll see that I pressed F, so it would show me what I'm selecting. So I'm on polycube 1. Maybe I want to change that at this point. So at this point, I would then say gadget. Maybe it's the bottom, and then I'm going to call geo. And I'm going to press enter. Again, I'm going to save my file. And I haven't been looking at any questions or anything. I'm going to really quickly try to, where is that webinar thing? Okay, I can't find my webinar button.
It's all right.
So
We've
I guess nobody's
covered all the questions, Hussein.
Okay, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. And hopefully, all right, so let me keep on going with this. I have to check my time because how much time do I have, guys?
You have about 16 minutes, so we should stop soon for any additional questions. And
oh my goodness.
You have a multi-sided face there too.
Oh, I do have a multi-sided face. Is it? Yeah, oh yeah. No, you're right. No, this middle one. You're right. You're very right. This would be unacceptable, completely unacceptable. So an easy way to fix that, and thank you for reminding me. This is just a very, very quick fix, and that's why I didn't select when I was double clicking. select edge loop because it was not conforming to the standards of what Maya likes. And you notice this is where we get some, you see the weird kind of, hey, that doesn't look right. It's because those normals under the mesh display have gotten changed. And we can very easily unlock the normals, and it should, maybe it's not showing too much. Well, I guess it's just because it's pushed out, so that's fine. My bad. So as you can see, sometimes that'll happen, and it's good for you to check this out. Like, yeah, I just selected that. Why is the manipulator there? And you start looking, oh, I had something underneath. Oops, I pressed delete by accident. So you can control and select, and it'll deselect the last thing. And always make sure you pay attention where that manipulator is, because it looks like I'm still selecting something that's way out there. So just always be aware of that, because if I'm selecting this, it should only be right there. So, let's say I want to get that, nice little circle view. Double click that, make it a little bit bigger, and I want to have a really nice edge here. I can do a couple things. I'm going to bring this out just to give it more of a curve. And then I'm going to simultaneously grab these two, and I'm going to press the scale key. I'm just going to bring them in, kind of give it a little bit of a taper. And press 3 just to smooth it, and we see we're getting a little bit better. It's not quite a circle. It's a little bit more of an oval. We can fix that. An easy way to fix that would be to grab these vertices and these vertices and deselect. Is it deselecting? And I'm going to, wow, this is weird why it's doing that. So I'm going to go into wireframe mode because I seem to be selecting something, or my settings are kind of weirded out. So here, I should only be there. And I'm going to stretch this out. And you can see it should be lined up. Sometimes your alignment changes. And I am going to then make sure that these guys are also lined up, just so it's a nice circle and everything is as close to a circle as we can get. And it starts getting better and better. Again, this is a beginning model. I don't get too uptight on if this looks perfectly amazing at this point. I try to go with as little polygons as possible. If I want a nice little edge, maybe a sharper edge on this, like my drawing does, I might add an edge loop, another edge loop on this side, and so forth. Maybe if I want a little indentation, I'll double-click with Shift and Control, and then I can actually use extrude on this, or I can use extrude. So you can see now the extrude is off kilter, and that's because it's using the normal that is based off of this base. Now I'll explain to you what normals are. I'm going to make a supplemental video probably within the 2 weeks just to explain some of these things. There's a lot on YouTube, and I know we're probably going to get to questions. You can click on this little doodad, forget what the name is, to kind of center that. So just make that go in the back. So now that should taper inwards. Go back to 6 so we can see what this looks like. And now we're getting something that looks a little bit prettier. And this is all polygon modeling is little by little. Do not get too worried about adding all the detail at once. I probably wouldn't have done this at this point, adding those edge loops. I just wanted to illustrate a process. The other thing we can also do is if we don't want to add edge loops, and depending on the render engine that we're using, we can take advantage of what's called open subdivs. So I can come here and say, I want all these to actually have creases. And we have this tool right here. So we can press the crease tool. I select these, and I can, I can middle mouse and drag, and it should, go back to 6. I wanted 3. and it looks like I grabbed the wrong one. Of course, I grabbed the wrong one. As you can see, I have a really hard edge on that now, without actually adding geometry to my actual scene. So it would be as if I would have added an edge loop. In some instances, I might have to have missed that one. So this is a good technique to use. Most of the render engines use that. I can then, again, go to that crease and say, you know what, I want to actually collapse that crease. And if it's time for us to go to questions, please go to questions.
Yeah, let's. I think we should go ahead and do that soon. And actually, we have a question in there if you want to touch on that.
Okay, go ahead. Can you tell me what the question is? I seem to have lost my...
No problem. Yeah, it's basically, is there any specific reason to use a textured plane instead of a free image plane? And I remember in previous versions, actually, the image planes, like the free image planes that you would assign to a specific camera, didn't translate, so they didn't have as much movement as you would with a textured image plane. And so I remember getting into like just using textured image planes because of that. But recently I've switched over to just using the free image planes. I don't know if you have any more info on that, Hussein.
That's personal preference. I've been modeling for over 12 years in Maya, and I think it's because that's how I got around doing this. I can also have like 25 of these if I'm working on separate, I have different parts. I might bring in next week a very complex model of mine where you'll see like maybe 15 of these while I'm working on different parts of a certain model, because I didn't really want to break it up into individual little parts. I wanted to keep it all in one shot. That's how we were kind of working on this one project. So I can definitely show you how that, and it's kind of impossible to do that with the with the image planes that are currently. You can have one, and I don't think you can have 15. Could be wrong though. We could script it somehow. Anything else? So I'm going to keep on doing stuff here as I'm going along, and I'm just I'm going to very quickly just knock this out. And you can see this has kind of this this cutout here. It's like, how are you going to get that cutout to work, and so forth. That cutout actually happens down here. So I've realized that I probably have to push this down a little bit. So I'm going to add the edge loop here. And we can see that most likely it's right here. And I can just blow that away, and we can then fill this area up. Instead of blowing it away, I'm going to blow just this one away, and I'm going to select these, and I'm going to do an extrude. Just going to go from here, make sure it's perfectly flat, and then I'm just going to drag it all the way down. And I'll have this edge in here, which I'm going to have to deal with, which dealing with it is going to delete. But I also have to make sure that it's also connected, because right now it's kind of in the middle. Just going to go to the middle of this. I'm going to press Q. I'm going to do faces. I'm going to select all of this, and you notice that it's selecting all the way through. Like, how are you going to deal with that? So this is just showing you sometimes you'll run into issues like this. And very quickly just push this down. How do I make sure they're all on the same plane? Select them all, scale key, and scale them together. Now if I press 3, you'll notice that it's sharp down here. And that's because there isn't one vertex but 2. These are things that are good to identify. So you would click merge to center. And I can press G key to then do the process again. And now we have this set up. It's not nice and tight like we would like it. We can either use the crease tool, or we can actually add edge loops. So I can add edge loops and just add edge here, and you'll notice it starts getting tighter. We would then have to add another one here, and another one here, and another one here, another one here. You start understanding how this works and why edge loops are really good, not edge loops, but creases are a really good idea. Before you know it, you've added so much geometry just to get this nice and sharp that it's this is so much harder to deal with and so much more difficult to manipulate. It does look nice. Sometimes you can get away with just adding as many edge loops. On something like this, we probably can. And the fact that we'll probably be taking this also into a game engine, which will not obey creases. We might have to have this. We're also going to be taking this into Vred. That is not going to obey creases. So we have to also know, where is this asset going? What are the differences in how I'm going to make it to fit that specific area? If it's going to be rendered in Arnold or V-Ray or and so forth, they'll obey creases, no problem. You don't have that extra geometry to deal with. All right, is there any other questions? I know we're 4 minutes away. Next week, not next week, but here in 2 weeks, I'm going to add a supplemental video. And please post after this gets posted online. Post kind of the things that you'd like to see, more stuff. I'm going to finish modeling this. I'm going to provide you with this model, and I'm also going to provide you with the artwork for this one. And the other thing, next month, we're actually going to jump into 3ds Max, and we're going to continue on some other parts of this project in 3ds Max. And that's going to be led by Dominique or John Bell. We're still not sure exactly which one is going to be doing this, but that's where we're going from here. Yep.
We have a question. Is it better to work in symmetry mode or do one-sided duplicate after?
Again, that's personal preference. And can you mute your microphone, Dominique? All right, awesome. That's personal preference. I've worked in both. In this quick demo, I didn't use symmetry mode, and I think it was just because I was working really fast. Many times I do. It's either way. I think I can very quickly mirror this, and as you can see, it disappeared. You're like, oh my God, where did it go? It's because I have to pick the axis, and where are you mirroring it? So I have to go the other way. And is it? All right. Oh, direction. That's why. Nope. There we go. So I've just done a mirror, and there I have my model. And also be aware that you have all sorts of options that you can do on these. And there is you can flip to UVs, you can have the smooth angle be different, and again, there's a slew of other things that you can do. You can copy the attributes and so forth. So that's a really cool tool. That is the mirror tool. It's some of the things are new to it, so that's why it's in green now for 2017. We do have a really cool YouTube channel, learning channel for Maya, and I would suggest going through there, doing as much as you can. Yet I think we're at a couple minutes from there, from the end of this webinar. Thank you so much for participating, guys and gals, and I will do my best to start getting more and more advanced as we go. So for now, we're just taking, as they say, baby steps until we get to a lot more stuff, because I don't want to lose anybody either as far as complexity. All right, looks like we have any other questions? What does version in file name refer to? That means, I don't know if you've answered that already, but that basically means, is this the first save I've done, or not the first save, is this the first version of that finished model? Or is it first iteration? And that's one thing I didn't talk about. And we're iterations and versions. So yes, there is going to be a little bit different. You'll have version 1, and then you might have underscore iteration, which would be you're saving several times, because you don't want to lose work. Let's say you have a corrupt file, or something falls out, or there's a change. If there's a change, then you would have a second version, and you would then start with 0 or a first iteration. You would basically start those iterations over. So version is basically per that asset. Is this the first drawing? Did it come back from, not the first drawing, or the first model of it, or whatever it is? It can be either a plate that was color corrected, maybe this one is the blue one or the cyan one, or this one is the one that has more green, so forth. Hopefully I'm making sense.
I think that's it.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you next month with the 3ds Max, and we will be posting here in a couple of weeks a supplemental video to this, and we will also be posting the files that you can get so you can start playing around with this file. And hopefully, as we go along, I'm going to start inviting some really cool industry leaders in either any of these visual effects areas. I've already reached out to a few, and it's going to be pretty cool stuff coming forward. Yep.
Just quickly, we had a question about Shotgun.
Yes, what's that?
It says, will you work on Shotgun as a team or with other organizers, and will they join too?
Actually, I have been doing that. I unfortunately didn't throw much about Shotgun. I know I got some feedback saying we want to see more work in Maya and that stuff. So I did kind of pull back from showing too much of the Shotgun stuff. I did put some suggestions to some of the links you guys can look at and go forth. But yes, I really do want the Shotgun to be one of the center points of this, to kind of show how we can go through and how our team is working. I actually do have like Kevin Dunn, who did this artwork here. He's actually working through Shotgun. So everything he's doing is going through Shotgun. I actually booked him, for a certain time, and he's actually doing this for free. He doesn't work for Autodesk, but he's a great guy who just kind of volunteered to help me out, because it's nicer than I do. Mine would be, unrecognizable scribbles. So yes, I will try to get more Shotgun in. If not through supplemental videos, I will try to add more of that to the agenda if that's something everyone really wants. I think we're about 2 minutes over. If we have 1 or 2 more questions, I think we'll do that. And without any further ado, thank you so much for your patience. And again, enjoy working in your VFX projects, and I wish you the best of luck in them. If you have any questions on projects you might be working on, send it our way. If we have any feedback, we can give it our best shot, as they say. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.